Alright, so in this video I'm going to show you how I made this keychain slash face mask holder thing. Let's get into it. Okay, so I pre-cut the board prior to recording this video. The first thing I'll do is sand down the edges, take all the sharp edges off, make sure that there isn't any splinters on the board. Then after I sand it down, I will take the stencil I want to use and I'll position it on the board and set up where the hooks belong. First thing I do is I'll find the center of the board, so that way it's the main hook will be in the center, and then obviously, and then the other two, they'll go somewhere outside, whatever I think looks good. As long as all the hooks are level and straight, it should be okay. Just have some type of uniformity when you're putting the hooks in. Then I'll take a punch or an awl in this case, and I will punch little holes where the screws for the hooks will go. After that, I'll take a drill bit, well, drill, and the drill bit will be smaller than the screw, just so I can get some of the wood out of the way so it won't break the head of the screw off or have any kind of binding issues when I'm trying to screw the screws into the board. So I think it's always a good idea to pre-drill the holes before you put the hooks in. All right, now we get into painting the board. Now, normally what I'll do is just the standard craft paint that you would buy at any type of craft or hobby store. I don't skimp on the craft paint. I know that sounds weird, but I don't buy the cheapest. I usually spend a little bit more money and get the multi-surface. Instead of buying the cheap paint, I usually spend a little bit more. It's still pretty inexpensive, but I notice that it goes down a lot better and you don't have to do as many coats. All right, so after I put down my coats of paint, I will take my hair dryer, blow it off, and do this 3 or 4 times. The hair dryer saves a lot of time when it comes to actually drying the paint. Now what I'll do is I'm positioning the stencil. I'll position it, I'll check, I'll recheck again. I spend a lot of time making sure the stencil goes where it belongs. The reason being is once I start putting the paint down, I can't adjust the stencil anymore. Then I have to start all over. As a final step, what I'll do, once the stencil is where it belongs, I'll take this blue painter's tape and I'll go around the edges just so it holds it in place. And then if I have any spillover from the paint that I'm using for the stencil, it doesn't go onto the wood that I just painted. Now for the stenciling, what I've noticed works best is I try to get a thicker paint. Thin paints, what they'll do is they'll go under the stencil and it'll be the image will be all blurry. So I try to get thicker paints for the actual stencil part. I've noticed that black is usually pretty thick. It does well. And I try to pick 2 contrasting colors so that way it's more of like a washed image. Now with the stenciling part, you can't really do multiple layers. I just try to put down as much paint as I can on the first layer. The reason being is because if the paint dries, it dries on the stencil and it could possibly ruin the stencil, and I want to reuse this as many times as I can. So now I'm pulling off the tape carefully and slowly. I want to make sure that I'm not getting any paint where it doesn't belong. And take your time on this part because you don't want to smear the paint. You don't want it to go all over the place or possibly mess up all the work that you've done. All right, it's the last piece, and we'll put that out of the way in a safe spot and carefully pull the stencil up. Unfortunately, I got stubby fingers, so it's kind of hard for me to do, but carefully pull the stencil up and check it. Make sure that it looks good, nothing's distorted or out of place. Then what I will do is I put sorry, it went through pretty quick, right? Tongue twister. It went pretty quick, but I will spray clear enamel on it. I'll do a couple of coats of that so that way everything is sealed in and it's pretty durable, so in case it accidentally gets scratched. Then I put the hooks in, the holes that I pre-drilled, the holes will line up just right, and then I flip it over. On the back, I'll put my hook where it will actually mount onto the wall. And that's pretty much it. Really simple. Um, yeah, so here I am putting it on display for the video. I hope you like it. It's pretty fun to make. Really simple, just a stencil, a couple of paints, and a piece of wood. And the hooks I think I got online. Pretty much everything was fairly cheap. That's it. Hey, you made it till the end of the video. Congratulations and thank you. If you have any questions, concerns, funny little stories, let me know in the comments below. Also, hit the like button and the subscribe button. I'm not exactly sure what they do, but everybody else says it, so I think it's important. That's it. The end.